They saw, too, lamplight glowing on half the backyard wall, and scented mists flooding the whole of Central Mall. When Tripitaka saw all this, he dared not enter. "Worker," he called out. "From the front, your place looks so run down, but it's so nicely maintained back here. How can this be?" With a laugh the worker said, "Venerable father, there are many perverse fiends and bandits in this mountain. In fair weather they used to rob and plunder all over the region, but they would seek shelter in this monastery when the skies were gray. They took down holy images and used them for seat cushions, and they pulled up shrubbery and plants for starting fires. As the monks in our monastery are too weak to contend with them, the ruined buildings up front have been turned over to the bandits as their resting place. New patrons were found to build another monastery in the back, so that the pure and the profane could remain distinct. That's how things are in the West." "I see," replied Tripitaka. As they walked inside, Tripitaka saw on top of the monastery gate these 5 words written large: "See Pacifying Chine Grove Monastery." Hardly had they crossed the threshold when they saw a monk approaching. How did he look, you ask? He wore a cap of wool silk pinned to the left. A pair of copper rings dangled from his ears. He had on himself a robe of Persian wool. Like silver, his 2 eyes were white and clear, his hand waving a rattle from palm ears. He chanted some scripture barbaric and queer. Tripitaka could in no way recognize this Lama cleric of the Western sphere. Coming through the door, the Lama priest saw what lovely, refined features Tripitaka possessed: broad forehead and a flat top, shoulder-length ears, hands that reached beyond the knees, so handsome, in fact, that he seemed verily an incarnate arhat. Walking forward to take hold of him, the Lama priest, full of smiles, gave Tripitaka's hand and leg a couple of pinches. He also rubbed Tripitaka's nose and pulled at his ear to express his cordial sentiments. After taking Tripitaka into the abbot's chamber and greeting him, he asked, "Where did the venerable master come from?" "This disciple," replied Tripitaka, "is someone sent by imperial commission of the great Tang in the land of the East to go to the great Thunderclap Monastery of India in the West to seek scriptures from the Buddha. As we arrive in your precious region at this late hour of the day, I come especially to ask for 1 night's lodging in your noble temple. Tomorrow we'll set out once more. I beg you to grant us this request." "Blasphemy! Blasphemy!" said the priest, laughing. "People like you and me didn't leave the family with noble intentions. It's usually because the times of our births happened to have offended the Floriate canopy. Our families were too poor to rear us, and that gave us the resolve to leave home. Since we have all become the followers of Buddha, we should never speak fraudulent words. But mine were honest words," replied Tripitaka. "What a distance it is to travel from the land of the East to the Western heaven," said the priest. "There are mountains on the road, there are caves in the mountains, and there are monsters in the caves. You are all by yourself, and you seem so young and gentle. You don't look like a scripture seeker. The abbot's perception is quite correct," said Tripitaka. "How could this poor cleric reach this place all by himself? I have 3 other disciples who are able to open up a road in the mountains and build a bridge across the waters. It is their protection that has enabled me to reach your noble temple. Where are your 3 worthy disciples?" asked the priest. "Waiting outside the monastery gate," replied Tripitaka. "Master," said the priest, growing alarmed, "you probably have no idea that there are tigers and wolves, fiendish thieves, and weird goblins out to harm people in this region. Even in daytime, we dare not travel very far, and we shut our doors before it gets dark. How could you leave people outside at this hour? Disciples, ask them to come in quickly." 2 young lamas ran out, but at the sight of Pilgrim they immediately fell down in fright. When they saw 8 rules, they stumbled again. Scrambling to their feet, they dashed to the rear, crying, "Holy Father, you've rotten luck. Your disciples have disappeared. There are just 3 or 4 fiends standing outside the gate. What do they look like?" asked Tripitaka. One of the young priests said. One had a thunder god beak, another a pestle-like snout, and a third had a blue-green face with fangs. By their side there was a girl, rather heavily made up. You could not possibly know that those 3 ugly creatures happened to be my disciples, said Tripitaka, smiling. The girl, however, is someone whose life I saved back in a pine forest. Oh, Holy Father! Cried the young priest. Such a handsome master like yourself, why did you find such ugly disciples? They may be ugly, replied Tripitaka, but they are all useful. You'd better hurry and invite them inside. If you wait a while longer, that one with the thunder god beak, being no human offspring, loves to cause trouble and he may want to fight his way in. The young priest hurried out, trembling all over, fell to his knees, and said, Venerable fathers, Father Tang asks you to enter. Oh, elder brother, said 8 Rules, giggling. All he has to do is to invite us to enter. Why is he shaking so hard? Because he's afraid, replied Pilgrim. Seeing how ugly we are. How absurd, said 8 Rules. We were born like this. We don't look ugly just for the fun of it. Let's try to fix up the ugliness somewhat, said Pilgrim. Our idiot indeed lowered his head to hide his snout in his bosom. While he led the horse and Sha Monk toted the luggage, Pilgrim herded the girl with his rod in the rear as all of them walked inside. Going through the ruined buildings and 3 levels of doors, they reached the inside, where they tethered the horse and set the luggage on the ground before entering the abbot's chamber to greet the Lama priest. When they had taken their proper seats, the priest led out some 70 young lamas who also greeted the pilgrims. Then they began preparing a vegetarian meal to entertain the guests. Truly, merit must start with a merciful thought. A priest lauds a monk when Buddhism thrives. We do not know how they will leave the monastery. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.